Hi everybody, I'm Scrapped, and YO! This week is packed with a lot of huge changes for the game, but as always, let's start from the beginning. After a long wait, we are finally getting introduced to the offhand crystal weapons, the unbreakable ward, the blue flame torch, and the time-lock grimoire. The artifacts required to craft these items will become available from the Conqueror's chest once the current guild season ends. There are some changes for the mists. The instance management was adjusted to focus more players into each instance, so now there should be more people going around in the mists. Chests in the Nightfall Abbey now grant the first opener's party 1 stack of Nightly Grace. Unenchanted lethal mists are now less likely to have an entrance to Brazilian, but more likely to have an unstable roads exit. Now some other changes. Mobs in corrupted dungeons now drop silver again. Yeah, I noticed that the other day on stream. What the hell, dude? Guild season avatar rings can now be salvaged for community tokens. If you play on controller, the controller cursor in UIs is now disabled by default, and the controller cursor toggle state is remembered between sessions. And now, with that out of the way, let me tell you about the end of the world! Well, not exactly. It is the end of the world for people that like to abuse the forced dismount strategy, where gankers will get in the way of the enemy AoE attacks and get forced dismounted. That gives you a cleanse and a crowd control immunity. It's a huge advantage to have when starting a fight, but from now on, in small scale fights, the game will apply a 10-second damage and crowd control debuff to players that get forcefully dismounted while other players are fighting nearby. And that's not all. In large scale fights, running into your enemy on your mount has become too common. The cleanse and the CC immunity makes those players really hard to punish. So now, if players have disarray, those players will not get the cleanse and the crowd control immunity. And also they are keeping the cleanse for players without disarray. So solo players and smaller groups have a better chance dealing with the crowd control chains upon dismount. And now it's time for the combat changes introduced in this patch. The Blessing of Valor. You don't know this thing? Well, I don't blame you. Because it sucks! Well, not really. But it is the worst of the 3 blessings that you can obtain in the Nightfall Abbey inside the Mists. But in this patch, they buffed it. Now it makes you immune to forced movement effects. All arcane staffs. The cooldown for the arcane cleanse, now it's 3 seconds longer. So your decision about what to cleanse has to be more thought out. The enigmatic staff. They want to make this weapon more attractive for group fights, by increasing the shield range and the energy cost per tick of the protective beam. The great arcane staff. They nerf the time freeze duration against players and mobs by 0.5 seconds, to weaken the impact of its crowd control. The Astral Staff. The radius of the Starfall ability has been decreased, so you're gonna have to think more about your positioning. And also the Resilience penetration has been reduced to 30% in order to reduce the damage output of this weapon in large-scale CVC. All core staffs. The cooldown of the core stat ability has been increased by 1 second to reduce ground spam. The Demon Fang. The blood ritual self-damage was scaling with the weapon's item power, but now it's going to be a percentage of max health to make sure its self-damage is consistent across all tiers and armor types. The Twin Slayers. The elapsed time before casting recall daggers is now refunded. This should allow more room for when the second cast is activated without losing any time on the cooldown. Frost Staffs. The freezing wind used to root almost instantly, so they changed it to have an increased delay on the root, with more upside if you manage to hit it successfully. So you're gonna have to aim and position yourself better. The Fallen Staff. This is a huge one for this Holy Staff. The Salvation ability now grants damage immunity for 2 seconds, and affected targets cannot get another immunity from Salvation for 5 seconds. They did this so the Fallen Staff is not outshone by the other Holy Staffs. The Exalted Staff. Since this weapon is not being used as much, they reduced the cooldown in 3 seconds, and also increased the cooldown reduction per 100 IP. So with 1200 IP, you have a 41 second cooldown, but at 2000 IP, you have a 25 second cooldown. Brother, who the fuck can reach 2000 IP? All nature staffs. The instant healing from Rejuvenating Flower has been increased, and also it hits more targets. This way the nature staffs can stand their ground against holy staffs. The basic nature staff. The Circle of Life's maximum amount of targets has been increased, so it's more reliable in larger fights. The Wild Staff. They gave the Well of Life literally the same change as the Circle of Life, for literally the exact same reason. The Rampant Staff. The Spirit Animal ability now removes damage over time effects on players the animal touches. The Gallatin Pair. Have you seen anybody playing Gallatin Pairs? Well, neither has SPI. so they increase the damage output of the weapon by increasing the damage per stack of Soul Stream. The Claymore. It's another weapon that has been off the radar for a while, so they increase its overall damage, especially the pass-through damage, from 33% to 66%, so you better start getting those lineups with multiple targets correctly when you're about to pass through. The Phase Scale Robe. The cooldown of the Wild Magic ability was increased to 40 seconds, to make other cloth armors more viable. The Cleric Robe. The cooldown of the Everlasting Spirit has been reduced to 45 seconds, because people are preferring Wild Magic or Energy Emission over this ability. The Fiend Robe. The fear duration of the fear aura was increased to 2 seconds. You can only apply the fear effect once, so it wasn't an attractive option for cloth armor players. This change tries to fix that. The Mage Robe. The Purging Shield is getting a buff. The resistance increase added in a previous update was removed, and they added a defense against players and mobs that is stackable up to 33%. The Knight Armor. The Windfall resistance was too strong, so the resistance per stack was reduced, and the crowd control resistance per stack was also cut in half. The Assassin Jacket. The ambush ability is the core of the one-shot meta nowadays. So, to make it a bit more fair for other players, they reduced the radius from 15 meters to 13 meters, so they are easier to spot and to counterplay. The Fiend Sandals. Not a lot of people using this item, so they added a new effect to make it more useful. Now the ally target of the position swap also gets granted the damage immunity. The Spectre Shoes. They want more people using them, so the energy cost per tick was reduced from 3% per tick to 2% per tick. The Smuggler Cape. This cape has been a little bit too strong, so they reduced the cooldown reduction on potion slot from 90 seconds to 80 seconds. That way, the gap between some double potion use cases is increased. The Healing Potion. The cooldown was increased from 90 seconds to 105 seconds, because people were using these potions back to back using the Smuggler Cape. And there is one more change in the game right now, and I left this for the end because I find it very interesting. Have you noticed that the price of the transport ox changed over the past 2 weeks? Well, that's because about 2 weeks ago, they announced some changes that went into effect in this patch. It's a lot of changes, but instead of reading them one by one, this is the TLDR. The devs saw that the low-tier oxen are very hard to kill, and are often used for scouting purposes. Oh my god, they're actually paying attention. So now they are decreasing the speed, the resistance, and health of the lower tiers. So it's more fair for the rest of the players when going against a transport ox. And to balance this out, they are increasing those same stats for high-tier oxen that currently were not being used at all. So these changes made the entire transport ox market to change from one day to another. And people that knew this bought a lot of tier 8 transport oxen at a low price and then resold them when the price went up. But after 2 weeks, it's not really worth doing anymore. And that is all the news I had for you today. But hey, before you go, if you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. And also, only 5% of you guys are actually subscribed. So go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos. You can also join the Discord in the description so you can interact with the community. And with nothing more to say, my name's Crab, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.